Hey, what's going on? Jake here with Uncommon ADC. Today we're checking out the Rosecraft Blades Cane Creek Jack model RCT 013. This is one of their newer offerings, but they have a lot of recent releases that I've been very interested in. With Blade Show coming up though, I told myself I was going to limit myself to only one model, so ultimately settled on this one for a couple reasons. Those covers definitely drew me in for sure. I think they look incredible. They're a layered G10, and G10 is typically a handle or cover material that I don't get super excited about. I think from a usability perspective, it's great, but visually or aesthetically, kind of a boring material overall. And these covers are anything but boring, so they did a great job on these. Now, we do see layered G10 from time to time. Often it's in the different orientation. So we have this almost horizontal orientation here with that you can see the different stacks and how thick the different layers are. Typically, we'll see a stacked orientation where we have a base layer that's maybe a little bit thicker, usually a darker color like a black. We'll have some contrasting colors like a red or a blue. We'll see it pretty often, and then they'll contour it so that it's exposing different parts of those layers. And when you look at it from above, it has almost a topographic look, which I do think looks cool, but this has a very unique look to me. I don't know that I've seen other layered G10s in this orientation, so I do like that kind of almost like sandwich look to it. I think it looks really cool. The colors are also excellent choice. It has that 80s nostalgia to it, and I've heard people mention Taco Bell. I don't know if I've heard Burger King, but definitely has that Burger King vibe from the 80s as well. Similar colors, almost looks like a burger here, and so really cool, really well done. Really love a clip point style blade, but the other thing that drew me in was definitely the pattern itself. So this is a Coffin Coke Bottle Pattern. So getting in this closed position so we can see that a little bit better. The coffin refers to this bottom bolster. So instead of our typical rounded bolster, you can see these have these hard angular edges, and so has that more coffin appearance. And I think this looks really cool. I do like the effect a little bit more than the rounded bolsters. And then we have the swell in the center, giving it that Coke bottle look. And so I have a couple Coffin Coke bottle knives and really enjoy them. So the idea of getting a smaller version of it was definitely appealing to me. And since I enjoy the pattern and it's not one that pops up all that often, I figured I would go with this one, and really glad that I did. Now, you can pick these up for about $57.99. They're currently sold out on the Rosecraft website, but I purchased mine through traditionalpocketknives.com, and they are still in stock there, so that's where I'm going to link to. I'm not affiliated with TPK at all. Austin's a great guy, but just the first website I found that has them in stock at the time I'm recording. And so we'll start out in the closed position. Mentioned it's a smaller knife at 3.5 inches in the closed position, weighs in at 2.2 ounces, so pretty lightweight. G10's not a super heavy material, and pretty slim as well. I ended up picking up the matching orange TPK slip for it, and it fits in there nicely. It is a little bit small for the slip, but it works. I just dropped the whole thing in my fifth pocket in that slip and have had no issues with it falling out or anything. There's definitely a lot of space around the edges though, because this knife is so slim. As far as the fit and finish on here, also excellent. The covers obviously look great, but they're also really well applied. Seamless transition from our brushed steel bolsters. There is a fluted bolster on the top, but seamless transition from there to the covers. All of our pins on both the show side and the pal side are completely flush. And on the bottom bolster, we do have an RCB etch, and I like the placement of it. It's only on the show side, so no etch on the pal side. Like the placement of it. I think it looks good overall. I could still do without it, to be honest. I'm not a huge fan of etching on the bolster or on the blade itself. I don't mind it on the tang, but on the blade or the bolster, I usually prefer it without the etching. But if it's going to be there, I do think it's well placed and pretty subtle. Decent look overall. As far as our springs go, no gapping or anything like that. That's all to be expected. Usually Rosecraft does an excellent job with their QC. I think I have 9 Rosecraft knives so far, and I'd say 7 of them are flawless, where there's not anything that I can nitpick about them. Of the other 2, one of those was a second, so really can't fault it. The one that's not a second that does have a fit and finish issue, it has a little bit of a burn from the grind on the blade itself, so it's definitely a cosmetic issue more so than a mechanical issue, but they're not, obviously nothing can be perfect, but they're pretty close to it. Like I said, 7 of the 9 were flawless, and so they do a really, really great job. So I didn't expect to have any sort of gapping or anything like that here, or anything where the covers are off or not flush. And so all really well done. You can see that blade is also right down the center. I think I showed it earlier, but didn't point it out, and so wanted to show that there. Walk and talk is also excellent. It has a nice pull on here. If you like a heavier pull but not a nail breaker pull, it's on the heavier side. You can see nail nick deployment. I'm not able to pinch grip this. I think you probably could if you get enough of the meat of your finger into the nail nick, but you can see there's a swedge on the top half of that blade, so you're not going to be able to grab in there. So that's really the only place to grab. I tend to use the nail nick, and it has a nice 5.5 to a 6 pull or so, and really jumpy into all 3 positions. Nice snap, really great acoustics on there in both the open and close. And so I do prefer a heavier pull, so that kind of heavier pull is very nice. Has a stop pin in there rather than the kick on the tang, and so some people don't love that acoustics. I do prefer the tang sound over the stop pin sound, but I appreciate both of them. I think this still sounds good. Still super snappy and just a fun one to fidget with. Obviously, people don't always associate slip joints with fidgetiness, but once you handle one, you know they're just as fidgety. They just require 2 hands instead of 1 to fidget with. And so really well done. We have a clip point style blade here, D2 steel. Nail nick, we have that swedge at the tip. I love the blade shape, and Rosecraft stamp on the show side tang. If we flip over to that pile side tang, we do have some etching. So we have Andy's maker's mark next to the D2 steel, and then of course the model number, which is again RCT013. And so all really well done. This 3.5 inch handle in this open position does allow me to get all 4 fingers on there. Pretty sleek, and you know, without that kick, it does leave open the possibility where you can slide up a little bit, but the handles aren't super slippery. They're large enough that you can get them nicely and secure in your hand. And with slip joints, you're really not going to be doing any penetration or puncturing, and so that's the only place where I'd be worried about sliding up onto the blade. Most of the types of cuts you're going to be doing are not going to be where you're putting that forward pressure, where you're going to be sliding anyway. So no concerns with that. Nice strong spring on here, so no concerns with that closing up on your hand. And again, really nice and snappy. Great walk and talk on this knife. And so that's it for this one. Would love to hear your thoughts on it down in the comments below. As usual, if you enjoyed the video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, or hitting that notification button. Joining the channel as a member, they all help the channel out a ton, and I hope you have a great one. Take care.